All right, today we're going to start chapter 4. And when we start chapter 4, remember, we cannot forget chapter 1, we cannot forget chapter 2, and we definitely cannot forget chapter 3. When we were talking in chapter 3, we talked about the common difference in arithmetic sequences. And we also made the connection that the difference can also be called the slope of that linear function. So we are going to talk about linear equations in slope-intercept form. We're going to talk about what a constant function is and looks like. We're going to also review about slope. And we're also going to talk about the y-intercept. So let's start with an easier problem. All right, on the board I have a picture of a linear equation. And let's just review how do we find slope of that linear equation. Again, remember we take the two ordered pairs that we can have, which in this case are 2 and 3 and 5 and 1. When I look at the visual of that line, I already know if it's going to be a positive or a negative slope. So remember, it's rising up into the corner of the left side of the room, so I do know that it's going to be a negative slope. And that's important for me to remember. And remember, M stands for slope. So to find the slope of that line, M is equal to y minus y over x minus x. And I'm going to put the values in, and I have 3 minus 1, 2 minus 5. So 3 minus 1 is 2. And 2 minus 5 is negative 3. My slope of this line is negative 2/3. And what does that really mean? That means for every 2 steps up, I go left 3 steps. So another way of looking at it is how far did I have to rise? And in this case, my rise was a negative. So I rose negative 2 as I ran a positive 3. So in that case, it could have been negative 2/3 as well. All right? So what we're going to do is we are going to take the slope, and we're also going to take the y-intercept. Oh, what is the y-intercept? The y-intercept, by definition, is where the equation crosses the y-axis, which means this right here, that point is a very important, crucial point. So y-intercept is very, very crucial. We represent that with a lowercase b. So symbolically we have slope is m, and we have y-intercept is b. So I can take an equation of a line given to me in standard form. Well, let's add that to my list. Standard form. And that is ax plus by equals c. Ax plus by is equal to c. And I can manipulate that equation such that I can have it look in a form that gives me my slope and my y-intercept at a glance. But before I get there, let's talk about a constant function. Let's talk about a constant function. Let's take an equation and I will tell you that that's linear. And let me give you another equation. And I also know that that is linear. The only difference is this is standard form. When I manipulate an equation and I put it in form where y is by itself, I can replace my y with f of x. And what did that do? That took a linear equation and now made it a linear function. So whenever I have, instead of a y, I have an f of x, it goes to function form. So if I had f of x is equal to 6, that is considered a constant function. Because what that is saying is, if I replace my f of x with y, that says y is equal to 6. Well, where is y equal to 6? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, it's here, and it's here, and it's here, and 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 here. So what have I just created? I have created a horizontal line where f of x is equal to 6, or a linear equation of y is equal to 6. So a constant function, by definition, is a, let's go up this way, a horizontal line. So the first equation I had up here was a equation that looked something like this. And now I have this line right here. But let's manipulate this one so we can talk about the other form up here. So a constant function is a horizontal line. It can be written in equation form, which is y is equal to 6, or in function form, f of x is equal to 6. Does it always have to be 6? No. Any number here it could be. And then we know standard form. In standard form, ax plus by equals c. A and b and c have to be integers, and a has to be a positive. We know that slope is equal to m, and that is y minus y over x minus x. And we know the y-intercept is where it crosses over the y-axis. So let's take this equation right here that I have, which is 4x plus 3y is equal to 12. And now let's manipulate it so my y is by itself. So I want to get my y by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. That gives me 3y is equal to negative 4x plus 12. Now, we always put our x term closest to the equal sign. Okay, that's just proper form. But my y still isn't by itself, so now I have to divide everything by 3. That gives me y. That gives me negative 4/3 x. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. That, my friends, is slope-intercept form. Y is equal to mx plus b. So m is my slope, and b is my y-intercept. And I can answer that question and say the slope of this line right here is negative 4/3, and my y-intercept, or my b if you will, is 4. So let's graph that equation. All right, here's my coordinate system. If I have my slope and I have my y-intercept, I can graph it. So step 1, graph my y-intercept. Okay, y-intercept is where it crosses over the y-axis, and that's at 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. And now step 2, from my y-intercept, move slope. Oh, okay, so from my y-intercept, move my slope, and my slope is negative 4/3. So if my slope is negative 4/3, that means I rose down 1, 2, 3, 4, and I moved over 3. 1, 2, 3, and I put it up. Let's be mathematically terminology and say instead of a dot, let's say we put a point. So I have a point where my slope is. I moved down 4, I moved right 3, and I put a point. And then step 3 is I play dot to dot, which means I'm going to connect my points. And that, my friends, is the equation of 4x plus 3y is equal to 12. Well, I think it's important to know a little bit more and to figure out different ways of using that same concept. So let's do a few more examples. Okay, example number 1 says, write an equation of a line with a slope of 1/4 and a y-intercept of -1. Graph. So the first thing I need to do is I need to write the equation. So I'll start with my y equals mx plus b. And what do I have? I know my m and I know my b because my slope is 1/4 and my y-intercept is -1. So my slope is m and my y-intercept is -1. There is the equation of the line. I know it seems so simple that something must be wrong, but it isn't. That's it. Now to graph it, we're going to follow step 1. Step 1 was I graph my y-intercept, which is -1, and I put a point. Step 2 is I move my slope from my y-intercept, so that's up 1, over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, put a point. And then I play connect the dots. And that would be the equation of that line that I now have in slope-intercept form, which has a slope of 1/4 up 1 over 4, because watch, up 1 over 4 gives me 1/4. And it's rising to the right because it's positive. Awesome. Okay? Example number 2. Write the equation in slope-intercept form of the following graph. Okay, this time they gave me a picture, but they gave me a couple points. Now, if they do not give me points, you have to remember that wherever it crosses over on your graph paper, that will be one of the corners. Okay, and you'll notice that this doesn't cross over at my graph paper at all. So you got to be very careful when I'm talking about graph paper. I'm saying the line will go, let's try that again. Do you see how it crosses over at the T part of the graph paper? That's how I get my ordered pairs. Okay, that's just a little information. All right, so now I have a point that's 0, -3. And I have a point 3, 6. And can I find all the information I need? I can find the information. So, what do I need to do first? Well, let's see. They said slope-intercept form. So I need to know my M and my B. Do I know any of them yet? I do. I know my B. And my B is -3. Now, I could do slope, which is y minus y over x minus x. I can do that. Mathematically, absolutely. But watch how awesome they were to you. I can go up how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, so I went up 9, and I went over 1, 2, 3. And what's that? Rise over run is my slope. So my M is rise over run. It's going into the right corner, so it's positive. What's 9 divided by 3? 3 over 1 or 3. You can represent it either way. So do I have everything? I do. Look, I got my B. I got my M. Y is equal to, put those values in. My M is 3. My B is negative 3. Clean that baby up and I get Y is equal to 3x minus 3. I have the equation of the line in slope-intercept form of that gorgeous picture. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.